Rhett from Good Mythical Morning.
Oh, I heard it's actually really good.
And I've always been like a fan of Digimon. That is
They
kind of
don't
bad.
like
You
you?
shouldn't lie to Noah about GTA textures.
You guys, let me tell you what I didn't do this week. Okay?
I gotta be honest, man. I got a lot of things I did do. Why do I care about what you didn't do?
I think you're gonna find what I didn't do very funny, because I do.
Oh, we'll find out.
So as we all know, as I brought up on the podcast now a couple of times, I got my drone license. I've been practice flying my drone. My work, it's for work. It's they let me take it home. Whatever, it's great.
Yeah.
So what I didn't do this week, okay, I need you to very clearly did not do this. This did not happen.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with some people online on Friday night.
Hypothetically.
I wasn't hanging out with people on Friday night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't having a few drinks.
Of course not.
Of course not. And I wasn't trying to figure out if I could stream the output from the drone to Discord.
Which is a cool idea. Maybe you should do that. Maybe you should figure that out.
I should test that. I should make sure it works. So what I didn't try to do was take off from my balcony rather than going all the way up to the roof. And what I didn't do is immediately smash the drone into the side of the building.
I'm glad you didn't do that.
Like within seconds of takeoff. Everything's fine because obviously it didn't happen. And if it had happened, the replacement propellers, which would be the thing that broke, were like $20 on Amazon.
Oh, that's not too bad. If that had happened.
If that had happened, it's really not a big deal. But the 5-10 minute buildup of doing pre-checks and like setup and doing all this work to get it ready to go, and then not doing that, extraordinarily funny and deeply upsetting would have been deeply upsetting in my less than totally sober state.
Yeah.
Dude, nothing's worse than being fucked up and getting bad news.
Right?
Nothing.
I actually fully agree with that.
Actually,
it sucks.
Jackson, I was with you one time when that happened. Do you remember that?
It sucks. Like it just sucks.
God, I was like high off my ass and I get a call from work and he's like, you need to do this right now. I'm like, I'm not home. He's like, you still need to do it right now. And I'm like, I'm not doing shit, man.
Yeah, fuck you. Like, it sucks. It's even worse when it's not like work, if it's like a personal thing and you're like,
Yeah, no.
Because that actually matters for real rather than like, oh yeah, boss, I'll totally do that. Do it tomorrow kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
What a mess.
I fully agree that bad news, things happening with bad news, I feel like always, like I full on like shut down for a minute. Like I have to like take a full minute to process whatever the fuck has happened.
Yeah.
And it's never good. It's never good, and everyone's like worried that I'm gonna have a breakdown, and I'm just like, no, I just need a minute to figure out how to appropriately react to the situation.
See, I feel like I've never gotten bad news when I've been like fucked up around people. Like, so I imagine that must be, I don't know if it's worse or not. I feel like if you're around other people who are fucked up, it can be pretty bad because they might not get it.
Yeah, they may not realize how fucked up, like how bad the news is.
Mm-hmm. They lack that critical like context.
Yeah, because it's not their news.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm sure if it is like their news, it's probably just as like, it's probably way worse. If you're in a room with like 20 people and you're all like drunk as hell, and then 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
God.
Like, oh, dude, this
bold choice to go for, but I get where you're going for.
Hey, quick editing note here. After Jackson brought up 9/11, I had gone off on a mild tangent about my feelings about people who have politicized 9/11 and the bad things that have happened to people who are like not white Americans because of that, and all the, the nationalism and shit like that. And while I stand by that all of that is terrible and it's horrific that is a problem that we have in America, the comments I said definitely could be taken as offensive by people who had family members who did die in 9/11. On that front, I apologize. That's not what I had intended at all. But because the section it really doesn't add anything to the episode, we have decided to cut 90% of it. Unfortunately, we do call back to the fact the conversation happened many times over the course of the episode. So rather than just have you wonder why we kept bringing up 9/11 as like a what could probably have been thought of as a pre-recording conversation that just made it into the recording. I just wanted to clarify that so that you didn't have the weird missing context in that. Apologies on that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
You guys, I gotta be honest with you. I really don't feel like 9/11 is a podcast topic that we should stand behind. I gotta be real.
Wait, are you gonna be the brave man who stands on a hill and says, guys, 9/11's a touchy subject?
Yeah, kinda. I feel like I have to be.
You're so brave for speaking your truth. I never thought of that before.
I feel like I have to be. I feel
I've
like
never
given the
sat
last
down and
15
been
minutes
like-
of conversation, I have to be the one who's like, guys, maybe people have strong opinions about this day, and we should be careful about it.
So anyway, not about 9/11, just about like my average daily life. I have been having a pretty good time playing Red Dead Online again. Totally unrelated to anything else. I forgot how much fun the online for that was just to, hang out in. It's a good time.
I need to re-download that. You brought it up to me the other day.
I've never played those.
And I need to finish the download on it.
I think I'm convincing my sister to buy it and play it with me.
That's cute.
I convinced Nina to pick it up and play it with me.
That's extremely cute.
Jeff and I have already been playing it. It's a good time.
I will say, this is going to cause a resurgence of Red Dead Online in the Discord server. I
don't think it is. I've been playing it for over a week, and it hasn't.
Yeah, but not everyone watches your Steam.
Why would it? I got to be honest, man. I don't think that this is going to cause any sort of resurgence.
I hope it does.
I do too, because it would be fun.
I have literally never played or heard anything about a Red Dead game, and I guess I kind of knew there was an online, but like, what's different than just playing the game? Is it just not co-op?
The base game isn't co-op. It doesn't have any multiplayer features.
Mm-hmm.
So then the multiplayer is not just the base game.
No, it's a whole different. It has like
the base game is like super story based. You ever play the GTA story modes?
No, I've never played a GTA game either.
I think that's very, very good.
Yeah, I also think it's very good.
Are they not good?
They're fine, right? But they're not. The fifth one, I think, probably had the best story because it didn't focus around, isn't it cool when black people are gangsters? And knowing that they have like a really strong white audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fifth one of all, at least from my experience playing them, I think the fifth one actually had at least some opinions about things, whereas the other one that were some good opinions about things. Whereas the other ones I definitely didn't. Although Nico's story was pretty decent. If I remember
Nico's story was fun. It was the concept of what if GTA was just this Russian guy who came to America and was unhappy with how much America sucks. Because his cousin had lied to him about how cool it was. That was fun.
Yeah.
But
I feel like of all of them.
Yeah, I have no idea what GTA games are because I thought it was like just a really big like downhill maze that you drove a car around in a Facebook video where some guy would be like, so actually here's like a video of me making soap, and then there's just like a guy on a car in GTA going downhill forever. Oh my god,
I know what you're talking about.
That is the only thing I know about the entire franchise, except for that, and you could make tanks happen.
That's true. Those videos, I feel like they have to be like fun to make, right? But I gotta be honest, they're the worst part of GTA because that's all like mod work.
I would just want to play that. I would like to play that game.
Online, like custom game mode stuff. It's not modded.
I guarantee that there's no ramp like that in real game. That's modded somehow.
There is. I've played it.
I don't believe you. Why would you fucking lie to me, Dan? This is terrible.
That is kind of bad. You shouldn't lie to Noah about GTA textures.
You're right.
I would never lie to you.
Because you know that means a lot
textures.
to him. That's like one of the top 3 things that are important to Noah.
Top 3 Noah things. GTA textures.
Nina being Italian.
Yeah.
Speaking of which.
There's an Italian guy who came into work today and he's like...
No, I was about to tell a story about an Italian guy that came into work today.
Oh, please do.
We both got an Italian guy that came into work today stories. That's incredible.
Because mine was just me saying, oh, hey, stay warm out there. And he's like, hey, I'm a hot-blooded Italian. I got no problems with that, hey.
That's incredible. I had a guy come in and he started it off. I was like, hey, what can I get for you? He's like, how you doing? And I was like, oh my God.
He said, how you doing?
How you doing?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And I was like, huh? I've never heard someone just say it like that in this environment. This is a coffee shop, dude. And then he was like, he had like 10 rings on and a Hawaiian shirt.
God, that's so Italian.
That's like a really, really nice Italian, like a really, really nice Hawaiian shirt, not Italian shirt. But you know, he had like a really, really high end Italian shirt on, tons of rings, you know, and he's just like probably like 5'4". And he's like, "How you doing?" And then he was like, "I'm getting his daughter a gift card," and he's like, "And how about your espresso?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, like, you know, our espresso is like, I gave him like the price for it and everything." And he's like, no, I had it. He had it here yesterday, and it was as good as they got in Italy. And I was like, honestly, a guy looking like that would not lie.
I believe him. Why would he lie to you?
He's telling the truth. But you would not compare it to Italy unless he meant it. He also paid with an Amex Black card. So
you know what? If there's anything that seals the deal, it's the Amex Black.
I'm like, this guy. The fact that he pulled out the Amex Black card, I was like, okay, he
at least has money. He can afford to go to Italy on a regular enough basis to know.
I'm like, that's not like, I don't want to say not the bougiest credit card, because like, it's above my pay grade by like 100-fold.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, it's a believable bougie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't if he came in with like anything else, like anything, I guess I don't know any credit cards better than that. I'm not baller enough to know about credit cards better than that.
No, Amex Black is like my go-to of, this is a nicest credit card because I don't know nicer ones. You don't see them often. You know?
Yeah, I think that's the nicest one that you still see. But anyway, yeah, he was an Amex Black card, and he was just like,
"How you doing?"
He's just like a very Italian guy, very like cool. Bought a gift card and then left. I was like, okay, see ya.
I respect that.
Yeah, very cool experience. Sorry if that put your Italian man came to work today experience to shame.
It definitely did, but I'm happy to have heard about it. It's like,
yeah, I wasn't even going to talk about it on the podcast. I completely forgot about it until you brought that up.
I can't believe that we both had an Italian man comes to work story, but also that they both acted so Italian. That's special.
What a blessed
Dan,
day.
did an Italian man come to work for you?
No.
I'm sorry.
Damn, that's rough.
I don't get Italian men.
You don't get them as in see them, or you don't get them as you don't understand them.
Both.
You don't understand them, nor do you.
I don't understand the concept of Italy.
That's fair. It's kind of like shaped like a boot.
Dan's just like, I don't recognize Italy.
I
like the idea of getting people to say like, "Oh, I don't recognize like country," after they fail to see it on a map properly, just to get them quoted as saying, "I don't recognize fill in the blank."
Yeah, you did that to me once, and I had no idea what you were doing.
Wait, what did I do it to you about?
It was some like contested country in the EU. And I'm like, yeah, I don't recognize that because I didn't know what it was. And you're like, oh, you don't recognize it, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I've never heard of it before.
I don't know, maybe like I'm not gonna start naming things out.
It wasn't Ukraine. It was years ago. It was like in season 2, maybe.
Wow.
I know you've been doing doing that for a long time. It's a long running joke.
It's a good bit.
It is a good bit.
I don't recognize Latvia. Like,
actually, you know what? It might have been Latvia.
Who would recognize Latvia on a map?
I gotta be honest.
I'll be honest. I don't know that I could.
I mean, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are on top of one another in Eastern Europe. I believe Estonia is the northernmost, then Latvia, then Lithuania, but I'm not 100% on that. That's just kind of my gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Been a while. I just know that they are all connected and they are all kind of in a little row.
Hey, more power to them. Nice to have them all in one spot.
You know what? That's so true.
So true, so true. I'm brave to say it, right?
So true, bestie.
In fact, I'm on Google Maps right now. Let's do some European geography.
I'd like to give a shout out to Google Maps this
wait,
week.
I was 100% right. Estonia's on top, then Latvia, then Lithuania. Let's fucking go.
Holy shit. I want to give a shout out to Google Maps.
Does recognize
because
sorry, go ahead.
Google Maps has provided us an obnoxious amount of content on this podcast in one form or another. Like,
I love it.
The number of times that we've just been like, oh, let's Google Maps Canada and talk about where in Canada we would live if we lived in like some of the Northern Territory areas. Like we've done that on more than we've done that on so many occasions now.
Yeah, and the answer is St. John's, Newfoundland, because it goes incredibly hard.
I don't know if that was the answer, but I believe enough that it's the answer
my
now.
Answer.
It's the answer in our hearts, at the very least.
I see the TikToks all the time that are people in the, like, it's just a video of some dude usually, and they're like, name 3 countries that start with an S. And I'm like, oh, this is the coolest video, because it's like you know, it just like tests your knowledge, but it's not too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll be like, name the country that starts with like the letters, and then it'll just be like a really specific series of letters that you kind of have to know. Like, oh, what country starts with the letters DJ? And you're like, oh, well, you just kind of have to know that one.
Actually, that's
You guys got any guess?
I got no idea.
I have no clue what the fuck you're talking about, my guy. I gotta be honest.
Country
DJ.
starts with DJ are the first two letters in the name.
No, that's what I said. I have no clue what the fuck you're
If
talking
you're
about.
an English speaker, yeah, I love giving up on things immediately.
No, I just don't. I'm
I don't-
assuming that it's
I was
like,
given the next hint.
yeah, you said if you're an English speaker, what?
If you're an English speaker, it is a pretty funny sounding country name.
Okay.
In the same way that like Uranus is. You know, you're like, ha 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 ha. In fact, it's even about a similar subject matter.
It's about my anus?
Not the anus, but I suppose the region. It's an African nation.
Okay.
North African.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Wait.
All right, that's fair. It is the reason that Eritrea and Somalia do not touch. Fun fact, I have a friend from Eritrea and a friend from Somalia, and one time I sat between them on a couch and said that I was this nation. In one of the greatest geography jokes ever made.
Shit.
All right, it's Djibouti.
Oh,
Yeah,
Djibouti!
No word.
I remember
see
hearing
what
about
I'm saying?
that. Yeah.
It's a funny country.
It is.
I don't know if it's a funny country. I mean, it's a funny name if you speak English,
Yeah.
because like that has a meaning here.
Mm-hmm.
I love that when like a certain like group of people who speak a language will be like, "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard of," and then if you don't, you're like, "Huh?"
Mm-hmm. No, stuff like that is great. It's one of those things, right, where it straddles the line between just kind of being offensive to people of that country, but also like it's just a language difference. Don't harp on it in a weird way.
As long as you're like not making like jokes or being like obviously disrespectful or like
Yeah.
ignorant about it, it is, you know, the first time you hear it, you're like, "That's a country's name?" Yeah.
Why?
There's different parts of the world.
I feel like Djibouti used to be like just the word was used excessively in some sort of group I was in for some reason. And I can't remember if it was the church youth group or if it was a homeschool thing, because both sound right.
I don't know. It was not a thing in any group I was a part of, to my knowledge.
It might be Djibouti dubs, Noah.
No. It was, I'm specifically thinking it was like some sort of
The
like
country. Okay.
yeah. It was something more specific than that. Although I did just rediscover Djibouti dubs, and that was interesting.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
it's
a guy who made stuff on YouTube back in the day.
How do you spell this? The same as a country?
JA.
Yeah, not the same.
So
J.A.
Something.
Booty.
with a D, Djibouti dubs. What is this?
I don't know, and I honestly can't tell you why.
I've never heard of this
I
before.
literally can't tell you why
1.75
why that
million
person's
subscribers.
name is even in my head. Like I don't know. I could not name a single video that they do.
Most popular video. Stick Buddy dub. Mighty Putty dub. Slap Chop dub. Djibouti dubs. It seems like they do infomercials. Like they...
Among other things,
You know
yeah.
what? This seems familiar. They do like Billy Mays, like Smart Mop, like infomercial, like YouTube poop type
Yeah.
inspired, but like they just dub them. Yeah, no, this is not as good as like the people who are just like, you know, making YouTube poops out of Billy Mays, but it's I just watched like 2 seconds of it and it rings a bell.
Mm-hmm. I think it was something that Basement used to watch.
Sure.
Good for the basement, I suppose.
Yeah, Basement Brother. Marine might have done it too, but
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I didn't realize you meant basement like that person.
yeah,
I
sorry.
thought you just were talking about like a mutual between you and Dan.
Yeah,
who
I also had
went by
no clue who the
online
fuck you're
name
talking about. We thought the
Basement.
same thing.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I forgot that that's like a legitimate like username. I guess someone could actually have.
Yeah. There's someone who's named N64 that I know nothing else about except for they are named N64. That's like the depth of my knowledge with them. Hello, N64. I believe we have interacted on several occasions, but not to any, I suppose, significant depth. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I don't know this person. But they are continually referenced.
Well,
So basement could have been a person is my only defense.
they also could be continually referenced due to the fact that the N64. I don't know if you knew this. It was an incredibly popular gaming station from the 90s into honestly present day. Like, there's a lot of people that still love it. I don't know if you knew
Is
that
it
or
the
not.
Xbox?
Yeah, it's the Xbox. You got it.
Oh, yeah, the Xbox. I know that one.
Yeah, you're
PS Triple.
yeah. PS Triple. That
Xbox 360.
What'd you call it? What? Never mind. I don't want to know.
So, speaking of the PS3 and Sony being a major manufacturer of Japanese media devices, and Japan being a nation that has historically created some content that I've been known to enjoy, but specifically related to creature collectors and monster hunting and monster ranching video games, I have been playing the video game from the series that is not well known in the US for much outside of being a Pokemon
God,
clone.
what are you talking
that
about?
is Digimon. I've been playing a lot of Digimon lately. Digimon.
God.
The game Digimon from the country Japan.
I know what Digimon is. You could have just said Digimon.
Digital monsters. They're coming at you live from New York.
Live from
Honestly,
New York?
I don't know what it is in the air, but I know that Dave and a couple of that crew have also started playing Digimon, like playing the card game Digimon.
The card game?
The card game's always been underrated, I will admit. I haven't played in a long time, but the card game's underrated.
I believe it.
So for me, the Digimon kick came because I was talking with some friends about video games that like were really influential to us, but like are sleeper hits like nobody else respects.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of the ones I was like, oh yeah, it's got to be like Digimon World Dawn on the DS. I was like, that game was insane. I loved it. Because it's like a great mix between like the type of grind that exists in an MMO, but made into like a micro level where it's just like feasible to do in the turn of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like really fun to have kind of constant tangible rewards to strive towards when you're playing the game.
That's fun.
You're like, oh, I've got to kill this many like dark type Digimon to get enough experience to evolve. But yeah, it's and so I started playing the Cyber Sleuth games for the newer generation and consoles. I started playing on Steam actually, and it's really fun. I've been enjoying it a lot, and I'm very happy with that.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's a really cool franchise, and I've always been like a fan of Digimon, but it's been very hard to access consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of stuff for a while was Japan exclusive when it came to Digimon.
That makes sense.
Like I remember watching the show somewhat as a kid, although it was a little contentious as a kid because they would have bad guys like Devimon, which is like a devil Digimon.
I was like, isn't Satan like Satan is just straight up
Beelzemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of just straight up Satans in the game.
Mm-hmm. A variety,
which you know was a bit of a problem for my parents when I was very young.
I can believe that.
And yeah. Also, one of them's name is Beelzemon, and it's just Satan with two handguns on a motorcycle.
That's sick as
I
hell.
like Digimon do fuck design wise.
It goes
Every single
insane.
one.
I just love how many Digimon things are just like it starts out as just a dude and then transforms into something that makes no sense as a like logical next path. Like, oh, it goes from a fridge into a dog with a chainsaw arm.
Can I blow your mind, Noah?
Please.
It doesn't just go from a fridge to a dog with a chainsaw arm. It goes from a fridge to either a Leviathan or a dog with a chainsaw arm or a robot or a droid, and then it can go back and into either of those four things again, and every one of those four things can go into four different things. So like from one, there's a branching path that each one can become like 40 different options.
I love that.
So it's not just like a linear thing like Pokemon. It doesn't just go to the next. It goes to one of several, and then one of several, and then you can go back at any point and then climb back up that chain, and it's really interesting. They're a lot more fluid.
I love this. This is amazing knowledge.
It's insane. So you can become the chainsaw arm wolf, and then you can go back to the fridge and then become like a serpent creature, and then that serpent creature can become a dog with two heads that are both actually like mega blasters.
I love this. Why do we have to start putting rules to have things like make sense into things? We need to go back to shit like that.
I mean, these games are still coming out.
It's too late for me.
The problem though is that a lot of them, I remember playing when I was a kid. Or not playing, but watching the shows, because the games were all like on consoles and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember watching the show and then like having like the little like Tamagotchi like things, and then not being into it because it was just kind of too hard to access, and my parents weren't like we didn't really approve. And then getting the game on the DS and being like, this shit goes insane, and then never being able to find another Digimon game again, and thinking it just like couldn't find them or they were like too popular, but it turns out they just didn't port any games or shows to the US for like a decade.
Amazing.
Because people in the US didn't like them, and they did like very limited releases, and they didn't sell super well, so they just sold straight to Japan.
I love that.
And then the games that came out in like 2018, 2019, the Cyber Sleuth games, those were initially going to be Japan only, and then enough people were like, hey, we love Digimon and we're just going to translate this anyway. Can you please just officially release it for us?
And
And then
there's only one thing
there's
that
like
Japan hates more than like bringing their stuff to America, and that's losing money to the American audiences that love it enough that they're doing the work themselves for free.
Yes. But yeah, the problem ended up like not really being a problem, but they just did like a half-assed English dub.
Yeah.
Or not English dub, just English sub, like there's no vocals. But it's better than nothing and it's very playable. But the story, the sub on the story is like kind of nonsense.
As it should be.
Only sometimes. But like the gameplay works well. Everything is as it's labeled and does what it says it's going to do. But the actual dialogue and the story is a little muddied.
Sounds about right.
It's still really fun. And Digimon are just so cool because they are just little guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like Agumon is not just like a Pikachu or he's just like a little like mouse with like thunder powers. He's just like a sentient being that has wants, needs, desires, and a history, and like feels pain and emotion. And you're like, oh, this brings a strange ethics into it. And then like eventually he just becomes like a man fused with two other people to create like a huge knight, and you're like, huh?
And you're like, never mind the ethics, I don't care.
Yeah, and all the Digimon are just like, it's kind of how they dealt with the problem of like Pokemon being like Alakazam and Mewtwo being fully sentient, like cognizant, communicative like creatures that have behavioral patterns and like the ability to adapt and super like
express
supersede
their
humans
thoughts,
in some ways.
Speak true English.
But then some of them are just mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in Digimon, they're all just Alakazam level sentient and like they can just all talk to you and feel.
It's so good.
Yeah,
I do like
it's
that.
crazy. It's really fun, but I mean, it's just like also just batshit crazy.
Yeah. That's Digimon and the concept thereof are like an on-running in-joke in on Drawfee on YouTube as well. Because one of the hosts really loves Digimon, so since no one else knew anything about Digimon, it was hey, draw Digimon based on my description, and then I'll show you what they actually look like. But it was like a super vague description. Or draw the Digi evolution that you think it'll have, and sometimes it would be like totally off the wall. Then others would be, oh, it's the exact same image but with a digital clip art hat attached, and that's amazing. I love that so much. This is like weird little stuff.
No, Digimon is really fun and cool, and I think it's like the core story to most of them. The stories are all kind of vary, and there's not like a super huge amount of coherence because it's not necessarily about that.
Yeah.
But the concept is typically that there's like an entire digital world in which by creating like the internet and by creating data and storage and like the way we use electricity and conduits, we accessed essentially another dimension of things that exclusively exist within this realm of like data. And so it's like accessing like it basically just has like a super high level of mysticism thrown onto the ideas of like data and electricity and the internet.
That's fun.
It just like grants it sentience in the same way that like people used to see the woods as like a place where spirits roamed. It's like the same concept but grafted onto like the internet as a place where spirits roam, which it's obviously we kind of know it's not, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun thinking like that.
That is rad.
So
yeah, I'm a stan. I will defend Digimon.
No, I'm here for it.
So that, speaking of the woods being this deep, mysterious place, does remind me. Do you guys, Dan probably more likely than Jackson. Are you into the cryptid sphere at all?
I'm aware of the cryptid sphere, but into it is a bold statement.
I think that's probably more where I land as well. Jackson?
I feel like I'm knowledgeable on it, but not really into it.
Yeah.
Like I find a lot of it very frustrating and like clearly like borderline ignorant.
Yeah.
Most all of the time. And I think that people just need to have a deeper connection with the actual world around them instead of inventing things or appropriating things that they just don't need to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
like just go out in the woods. You're going to find out that it's sometimes if you don't know what you're doing and you're not prepared, it's just fucking scary. But most of the time it's not. It's beautiful and serene. But with beauty comes fear when you're talking with about nature.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that bugs me is I'll join like I joined a cryptid group on Facebook just because I'm like, oh cool. Just like some fun pictures of fucking like Mothman or something, like goofy stuff. That's all I want. And then I'll get people who are in the comments that are like, oh, well, don't go out after 6 p.m. And it's like, oh, bro, so true, so true. I had a cousin who went out after 6 p.m. and they fucking died. And it's like,
dude, that's so true.
I don't know, man. It's like we're in the era of knowledge, and I get that it's fun to have some stuff that it's just like it's weird and different that you like don't always know about. But there's not Stickman Sam who lives in the woods and counts twigs. Like there's wild animals in the woods,
dude.
and that's why that's why you can get
What's
hurt.
the twig count guy? Like the Shrike? No, not the Shrike. That's from the Hyperion.
I have no idea.
What's the stick? The creature?
It's just like you have a twig broom over your door, so he has to count every single broom.
Yeah.
And you have a
fuck. It's not the
you
Shrike,
keep a bowl of like dry rice by your bed, so he has to count all the rice. You don't sweep your doorstep, so he has to count the dust on the doorstep. It's just like, I don't know, man.
I mean, that's like a thing in other cultures as well. But I'm trying to think of what's the name of it. And no, it's not Shrike.
Yeah, I don't remember many names because I'm into this stuff literally exclusively as it's kind of fun to like think about fun little monsters sometimes. And then these other people are like, this is a way of life for me, which is like, I guess. But if it wasn't, here's the thing though. It's like, it's groups of people who like, while they talk about this type of stuff, they also have no respect for the people who like, these are where the stories come from. So like people will be like, hey, please don't say this thing's name because like culturally that's not cool. Please don't say this thing's name. Don't think about this, blah, blah, blah. But then there will be people like, ha ha ha, I'm going to talk about the thing because they only care about the spooky monster element of it, which I don't know. It's kind of shitty.
Yeah, I just think it's like one of those things where I think a lot of people tend to like be really, I guess, selfish about it all. Where like let things like Wendigos and spirit like certain types of things that are like, spiritual to some people, like a Wendigo, like a Skinwalker, where it's like don't just make it a thing where you're like, oh, wouldn't it be spooky if you were driving down the road and there was a deer that was a little bit weird? I'm like, yeah, I guess that would be strange, but deer are also fucking insane little like creatures sometimes.
Yeah.
But also leave those to the people whose stories they are. Because it's not, and it's, I mean, to some people it's seen as literal, but a lot of places it's seen as like a spiritual piece of folklore, and it's not something you should just be like, no, it's real. My uncle saw one outside his cabin in like Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm like, well, maybe, but like maybe you should also leave those stories to the people who traditionally told them because you're just trying to add on and make this about you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like cryptids are interesting when you're telling the story as it's intended to be told. If you're treating it like a fucking SCP, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Like, don't make up shit for fun, and don't take things far more seriously or gatekeep things that don't have any, like, need to be. Just read the story for what it is. Maybe talk about it with your friends, and then, I don't know, just be fascinated by the cultures that create these things.
Yeah, because that type of stuff is cool. Like, local folklore stuff is fun. But, like, I don't know. I think part of that is the issue with being like raised Christian, right? Is you're taught to be inherently like distrusting of other shit like that. So you never actually like acknowledge the fact that other people's stories are as meaningful as the book of stories that you have.
Yeah.
But then I'll be like, because of that, I literally I can't take any of that kind of stuff seriously at all. I haven't been able to literally ever. But like at the same time, because of that, I try to like, I don't know, I try to like give it the space it needs or whatever. And it just, I don't like when people just kind of step all over other people's traditions in the sake of this is a cool story that I want to make my own and want to make my personality about it. I don't know. I like Mothman. Mothman's funny, but then there's like other stuff that's actually like kind of shitty and problematic that people will do in the name of the same stuff.
Yeah, I think making jokes about like Mothman is like, I mean, if anything, you're just annoying at this point. Like, come on, Mothman joke, 2022. It's allowed. It's not hurting anybody, but like, pick a different one, But don't.
It doesn't hurt anyone, but it feels like it should be.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, just a little trite, but that's harmless. So many things are.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like a lot of specifically like Wendigo and Skinwalkers are just like made into like the same tier as like Mothman and like, oh, let's just all just
The Jersey
like,
Devil.
dunk on it, make it up, think about it. Like it goes back deeper than that, and it means more to some people.
Mm-hmm.
But like, just I don't know, leave it be. It's a cool story to know about, but don't make it your identity. It's like the true crime people who make that their identity.
God, I hate the true crime people. I used to really enjoy true crime podcasts because I just thought it was cool to learn about that shit. And then I learned more about like what the true crime greater community acts like, and it's like, hey man,
yeah.
Or the podcast guys themselves, where they'll just be like, they make their whole like thing about like invading other people's privacy. Like, I'm gonna be the guy that shits on a good time, right? The new fucking Jeffrey Dahmer show that like the survivors' families are like, hey, we're not really cool with this, and the victims' families are like, we really didn't want to have this made. But every couple
become
years,
like a huge sensation.
Yeah, every couple years we get a new fucking Jeffrey Dahmer thing, or fucking what's his name, the handsome dweeb. I don't remember his name. I don't know. I've finally blocked most of those dudes out of my brain at this point. But like, you know, we get another one of those shows every couple years. Like, I don't know, man. We don't need that. We don't need this weird, like, people will watch these shows and then be like, I don't understand why there's so much like rampant, like stylized violence and things. Like, it's like, because as much as we're trying to like shut down like people like hero worshiping shit, like we're still like talking about stuff like that. I saw somebody fan casting Finn Wolfhard as fucking, what's his name? David, what's his face? The guy who murdered women, the Night Stalker.
Oh, David Ramirez.
Yeah, and it's like, how about we don't? Like, how about we don't make a movie?
Richard Ramirez?
Is it Richard Ramirez?
I don't know. Night Stalker.
I don't know.
I'm not like an expert. I just think Ramirez is the last name.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I knew Ramirez is the last name you're looking for.
Like, let's not bring in more serial killers into like the public sphere in that way. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to be like a party pooper. I just feel like it's like stuff that we don't need. And it's just kind of,
it's just got there's a lot of popularity. There's a lot of popularity to it though, which is like the craziest thing. And then there's also the people who are like, actually, there's way more like disturbing stuff on the world. I'm like, yeah, it shouldn't be like, I'm not even going to name any of the things that come to mind, but like you shouldn't worship watching things that are the most disturbing you can get. Like, yes, there are fucked up things out there, but you shouldn't make that really cool to be into.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I know the people who are like, oh, this Jeffrey Dahmer thing is nothing. Like, it's not nothing. Even if you're like, I've seen more disturbing things, that doesn't mean you should talk about it like a bragging rights situation that you're desensitized.
It bugs me that so many people, specifically like in my spheres, like the horror spheres, also are like really into real life murdering people. That's like, hey, maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like they'll watch like snuff films and be like, now this is true horror disturbing content.
I fucking hate that.
Like, you don't have to make it actual real or hyper real to make it scary. Just watch a movie that's just a little bit like kooky and be like, whoa, that was kind of spooky. It's okay that if it ends there. Like, you don't have to find like the most shocking, horrific videos of people dying.
Mm-hmm. It's just, like, that's too much. There's no reason to actually
they're not even scary. They're just sad at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they burn into your mind once you've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's a sad thing to try and like start making like gatekeeping being horrified at things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you gatekeeping the idea of not liking violence? Like, I don't know, man. It sucks. Like, it's okay to say, like, look at it and be like, that's disturbing, because it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never understood it. And I think there's a I think the problem isn't so much because like on some level, right? On some level, I get the idea of like it's almost like to a point, it's almost like listening to a horror story, right? It's not obviously, and I don't want to make that exact one-to-one because it's real life and not, you know, a story. But it's almost like listening to like a horror story or whatever. But I think there is an absolute fetishization.
100% agree.
Yeah, of it, and that is horrifying on many levels.
Well, I must admit though, I am personally a fan of like not like necessarily true crime in like hearing the gory details. I like the mystery kind of situations, like cold cases and stuff, where it's like this thing happened and they just like talk about what happened without giving you like too much information or gory details, and then they just kind of get into like and these were like who they thought might have done it. They kind of over time found new evidence, and even that's fucked up and invasive, but that's, I find like the 30-year-old cases that finally get solved very interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that stuff is really interesting, but I do think that is absolutely a different vibe.
Yeah, and it's also like it's knowing to like listen to the story and be like, wow, that's some like impressive detective work and like a dedicated family that clearly loved this person that was very special, and not, wow, that guy was insanely cool hiding for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge difference in the way you look at it, and I just wish that people looked at it the right way of like, man, look at the way that these families were negatively affected, but we're still able to over time piece together what happened and make sure justice, for what it was worth, could be served. That's,
although
like,
some cold case stuff they still pry into like family stuff way too much too, and that, I don't know,
or prying into like innocent people who were just suspects.
Podcasts need to stop doing it so that we can like
it's too long,
like,
too much time.
There's just too many of them that like get into people's business, whereas if we did like a couple of very hurtful authors who do the same thing, they're far slower than podcasts, and they maybe do less damage all in all because it's less pervasive. Like reading is less pervasive than podcast at the moment.
Podcasts and authors both, though, are guilty of the same thing, which is just giving too much information.
100%.
Just allot it less time. Make less content off of what is happening, because yes, you'll make less money, but you don't need to get into the way that like people's personal lives existed. And like if you're not just telling the story as it would be told in a traditional like news setting, like maybe you should think about what you're doing.
Yeah,
because maybe it's not ethical. And not to be the guy who says it, but maybe we should respect people who've gone through traumatic things.
Okay, well,
sorry to be so controversial.
Silly, go off.
Yeah, I don't mean to be insane.
Yeah, this has been a wild ride of an episode so far. We got to bring it together
really
with something like something fun in here because,
woo! I've been listening to some good music lately.
Oh, what you been listening to?
The Wonder Years put out a new album. The best thing to ever come out of the east side of Pennsylvania, which is saying a lot. They're just a really good band, and I hadn't listened to them in a while. Liked their last album well enough, but didn't like listen to it on repeat like I did to the albums before that one. So I just was like, I waited like a week to even listen to this after it came out, and I just immediately regretted it because it's a phenomenal album. It's called The Hum Goes On Forever.
Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Where is that?
Near Philly.
Yeah, it's by where Nerd lives.
Oh, nice. Way to fucking out. What the fuck?
Yeah, fuck you.
We're going to his house today. Anyway, yeah, the album's really good. There's some awesome songs. Like Laura and the Beehive definitely had me like tearing up, which was something I didn't expect to do while listening to it. I think the last one's called "You're the Reason I Don't Want the World to End."
That's a good name. That's a good song title.
Very moving. Very, very good music. Very emotional. I mean, like that's the thing I love about the Wonder Years is the singer of it, Dan Campbell, is like he gets, if you know me and the music I listen to, you know that I'm a guy who likes yelling, not screaming, yelling.
Yelling is fun.
Like yelling out of like just frustration, just like the like pure like angst of yelling, like car seat headrest kind of yelling. Dan Campbell gets it better than pretty much anyone else when it comes to just like screaming things that you truly mean. And I think that he really like puts his heart fully in the music, and the way that he screams it out makes it very apparent. I think it's very moving and enjoyable.
Nice.
I've also been listening to the album. It's actually an EP, the Flight Risk EP by Tommy Lefroy. Man, it's just so good. In a very sad way. It's really, it's kind of it's an indie girl record for sure. Ties and adjacencies to bands like Phoebe Bridgers and Julian Baker. They're very apparent. Doesn't make it bad, and it definitely stands out on its own in a way that really is very enjoyable. But a lot of content about, just as a heads up if you're listening, a lot of content about like self-harm and like depression, but in a way that is, I believe, optimistic and just very touching as well. Also, fun fact, the album art for these two albums, almost the same. It's insane. Like, weirdly similar. And also specific. Not identical, but just like way too similar. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
I went on the website and I just see The Hum Goes On Forever, but like 3 releases of it on different vinyls. And I'm like, damn, these are straight up identical albums. Because I'm an idiot.
Hey, almost like they are identical albums. Okay, I'm getting a screenshot of the albums right now. I took a screenshot and Spotify asked me if I would improve it with a quick survey.
Oh,
No way.
I took that survey earlier today and it was like, we noticed you listened to this album or this playlist ages ago, but haven't. Why did you stop? And the playlist is like, it's called Viva Latino. And I got to be honest, I don't think I've ever listened to that playlist in my life.
Maybe you put it on one time for like background music or something.
Literally, if I ever did, it was when I was driving and Nina just put it on to be like, let's listen to some of this stuff and see what I can steal for like my playlist.
It's amazing.
So I sent the 2 albums in the host chat. These are like the 2 albums I've had on repeat lately.
The vibes are very much the same image.
Very different sound and different like overall vibe, but not necessarily. Both very, very like, not depressing, but depressive albums. Like they are not bringing you down, but they are about people who are in a situation where they are down looking up. And, so obviously that is a very much at your own risk with your own perceptions type of listen, because they can
don't listen
be
unless you're going to be healthy about it.
Yeah, don't listen unless you are listening to the whole thing, not just the little bits that are sad. Because the overall message is the last track on the album for The Hum Goes On Forever is called You're the Reason I Don't Want the World to End. And it's about how, some things are really shitty, but it's the bonds we make with the people around us that make it worth living, no matter who you are or where you are. And it's like, that is the message, and it's just like, but it can be dangerous if you're not listening for the message, if you're just listening for confirming your own biases. So, that's my content warning, but I would heavily recommend the albums. Just bear that in mind.
Well, I think it's important to like check, right? Because a lot of the emo era, like, I'm not calling this music emo music, but like a lot of the emo era and emo era pop punk stuff did kind of glorify a lot of stuff that's actually like super harmful. But I also I will say, I think The Wonder Years is definitely an emo band. Okay.
I think that they could be under some umbrellas pop punk, and they've definitely done shows with like pop punk bands.
Yeah.
But I think they're emo in like a traditional sense, if you will.
Yeah.
Not in like a co-opted corporate emo like My Chemical Romance situation. More of like an American baseball type of just a guy emo. Like not grandstanding or being grandiose, just telling about like genuine experiences that cause a sense of pining. That kind of emo.
I get that.
But I feel like emo got a little bit, and I love like corporate emo and like that type of stuff. I think My Chemical Romance is great, but it's kind of, it's a little grandiose and kind of co-opted the term emo, even though it's not like the originators.
Oh my God.
If you don't do it first, you at least do it big.
Jackson, I totally forgot. I popped this on so I'd remember to listen to it, but then I opened it up and just hearing the voice quietly reminded me I did something and found some songs that I think you would despise.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so I was like, I know a lot of people cover Mountain Goats, and I just wonder, like, what are some
mad
of
at the
them
Broom
like?
Campbell, the Dan Campbell Broom people?
I don't know. Maybe I found
because Dan Campbell, the lead singer of The Wonder Years, did a cover of the song Broom People.
No.
On the first volume of Songs That Saved My Life.
Okay, so I just searched Going to Georgia, and I cannot, oh my God, Jackson, I cannot convey the front bottoms but worse whiny cracking vocal style that forced itself on my ears. 10 songs in a row, different bands, and they were all like, I am too big, and it's like, stop, hit a note. I'm gonna be honest, oh my God,
I don't even know if the Mountain Goats are gonna make my Spotify top 5 this year,
which is insane considering you were like the top 0.001% just like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe that's a good thing. Maybe this is like a sign of you like doing better or something.
No, I feel like it's, if anything, like technically like less healthy, but just more like exciting music. It's not that it got like too boring. It just got too formulaic. It's like, yeah, it's good, but
well, I mean, when one man
only
puts out
have
like
an
17 albums, they're gonna
yeah,
get a
it's
little
just
samey.
there's a
at
lot
some
to
point.
listen to. Yeah, there's a lot to listen to, but once you've listened to it all, yeah, you look for bigger and better pastures.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stay on NPR rock forever.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, and some people I'm sure do. But like,
It's nice to
you
change
stay on
things.
too long, and you end up a dweeb. You got to get out before you become too big of a dweeb.
There's also some like stuff where you can get like just real pretentious about the type of stuff, you know, that you listen to. If it's just like, oh, I only listen to good music, you end up like hitting that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you just like,
I hate that.
I love listening to all sorts of music, and I don't see a reason to, listen to too much of one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to listen to a variety.
I've got big lack of respect for any of the people who believe, or not necessarily believe, but like are in the camp of I hate rap.
You said you have a lack of respect for them?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
You.
I agree. There's
hate? Come on.
I don't know. I just don't think that there's a good reason to like that blanket despise a genre. Like there's a lot of stuff that I don't like, but like
same with like country. Country goes hard sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of country stuff that like I always will say I don't really like country. But there's a lot of country stuff that I very much do enjoy. You know?
Speaking of country and music, have you heard the album from Rhett from Good Mythical Morning?
Oh, I heard it's actually really good.
If you like country western music, it's an album.
I've heard it's very much about, it's very, from what I heard, as somebody who doesn't listen to country really and doesn't really care enough to go look it up, what I've heard is that it's very much about like growing up in the church and how that can fuck up your perceptions of things.
Yeah, the content of it's very good. I think personally it's a little overproduced.
Okay.
For what I'm looking for if I'm listening to like a good old country western, but I still think that the subject matter and the execution is really good, and it's a really neat concept to like experience that deconstruction as an album, and I think that's really cool, and I salute him for that. But you can also tell at the end of the day that it's kind of a first album.
Yeah.
And it's an album that's like it's like imagine if your first album you had way more to put into it than a normal first album would have for like a budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so it's very well produced. It's just, to me, it's a little bit boring.
I kind of agree. I think the overproduction and the fact that it does seem like it had a really big budget for what a first album would normally look like. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously he's like passionate about the music, but clearly not a lifelong, fully passionate, devoted musician.
Well, which is funny because he is a lifelong musician.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not been his number one priority.
Yeah, I think...
And that's fine.
I know a lot of people are really enjoying the music because it very much strikes a chord for people because of the subject matter. Which is also, like, if we're being honest, one of the reasons I haven't listened to it, because I watched their deconstruction videos when I had COVID the second time. And, I was kind of here cooped up in the house alone. Having a real bad time of it, if we're being honest. And I didn't really want to listen to more music about that specific thing from the guys that really fucked up my day complimentary, Yeah,
it's really heartbreaking, but I mean, it definitely strikes a chord with like me for sure. And I'm sure you guys to a degree as well. Mm-hmm. It's just a very passionate album, and I really appreciate and respect it, but I don't think it's going to be like added to my list,
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you.
Like, there's a reason I didn't bring it up when I brought up the albums I got on repeat. I've listened to it, and I genuinely enjoy it and think it's really cool. Like, it's just such a cool thing to have as a thing that exists. Like, if you told me that, like, 10 years ago that the guy with the, like, spiky hair from Good Mythical Morning, first of all, would not be Rhett in the future, I'd be confused. And then also that he made a serious country western album that is well produced about deconstructing religion, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be so taken aback by that. But it's what happened, and I think that's really neat.
I think it's cool to see how different creators have evolved over the years too. Like, if you had actually, honestly, okay, so firstly, I probably would have assumed the creators I was into at the time would be around forever and be like, well, yeah, no shit, they're still around. But if you gave me an ounce of like awareness and told me that Rhett and Link would still be around on the internet creating like popular content God, what is this? It's more than 10 years later. We're talking like 14 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'll say it. I'm not like a big Good Mythical Morning fan, but sometimes I will get baked and watch Good Mythical Morning videos and just eat insane things and be like, man, this is a good experience.
yeah, Good Mythical
Not
Morning is just a
regularly
kind of a
and not
fun
often.
thing. I could never
Exactly.
watch
If you
it
haven't
every
watched-
day. And I know
It's
some
fun
people
to binge
do.
after like 4 months.
Yeah, you just pop in and it's like, oh, what are these dudes up to? Because
And it's always like, huh, that's pretty
it's
fun.
always like fun enough stuff. You know what? Actually, we're gonna do an on-air audit real quick. What has Mystery Guitar Man done at all recently? Because I'm very interested. Oh, that's right. He got into like weird things, or like not weird things, real things. Like
he does real shit.
He's a director now.
Oh, also, can I speak my truth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I must speak my truth. I am so fucking vindicated by I think there is a turn. There's a weird cultural shift going on, and I think furries are coming back.
I was going to talk more about YouTubers, but
one would argue they've never been gone, but the fact that there was like this is specifically brought on by the fact that there is a Curtis Connor video. Well, I'm not like necessarily like a fan of or a subscriber to, but I saw it because of course it popped up on my For You page, my YouTube homepage.
No, I literally was about to mention that too.
Yeah, he made a video about furries and about how basically they're just normal people and that's kind of like their thing. But how that's not a big deal and it's actually kind of respectable and cool. And the reception has been super positive. Like 1.3 million views in 2 days and like tons of people commenting being like, wow, this is like really cool, or hey, makes a lot of sense. I'm like, I told you guys about the realm years ago. And I feel like people are coming around to being like, guys, furries don't deserve mockery.
I think it helps that we're becoming more and more removed from some of the bigger, I would argue, maybe not problematic, but abrasive, in your face, flamboyant, but maybe not that word. Examples of furry culture, like My Little Pony was so long ago, you don't see MLP furries anymore. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, I think that we're because of that, it's becoming easier to accept as like, oh yeah, no, you're just some guy in a fursuit. That's fine.
Well, I think a lot of it was early internet stuff was, I haven't seen the Curtis Connor video yet. And I do understand that me talking about cringe when literally just talking about how cool it is that he's talking about how it's not cool to associate furries and cringe inherently. Okay. Bear with me. I think a lot of early internet stuff is just kind of cringy stuff though. You know, like there's a lot of stuff that's like, it doesn't really matter what it was because it was just there's just some weird shit going on and it was just kind of
there are some cringy ass furries out
there.
And there are some furries that are fucked up.
Yeah. But then so many people like when they got sick of cringy furries pointed at the fucked up furries and they're like, see, I'm
told
right.
you they were awful. Yeah. I feel like that video in particular and the way it was received, I was like, man, I feel like someone who has like some level of pull and influencer credibility and like sway over a large-ish audience has basically made the argument that I've kind of made for furries for a while, and it feels very vindicating. Just fucking leave them alone. They're just people. Yeah, some furries are fucked up. Some people are fucked up. Some furries are cringe. Some people are cringe. Does it occur at a higher rate? Yeah. Do you think that furries have no other things going on in their life? I doubt that. You don't just wake up a furry. Maybe you do. I don't know.
Maybe you do. Who knows? Dan, you were going to say something else about like YouTubers though. What was that?
Oh, I was going to talk about Mike Diva, if you know who that is.
Mike Diva. Oh, you know what? Half a sec. Let me double check. But isn't he the guy who did
Mike
the? Yeah, he
Hawk?
was the one who did the. Shut the
Mike
fuck
Hawk?
up! Shut the fuck up!
Mike, Mr. Hawk.
Mike Diva's the guy who did that stuff with Jax Films ages ago, the dubstep in real life stuff, all that like weird like SFX stuff.
Yeah, he you would now know him as one of the main videographers on SNL.
really?
And did the music video for Panini, if you know that song from Lil Nas.
The Lil Nas one. I'm seeing he did a Run the Jewels video too.
He did a
Cyberpunk
Run the Jewels as well.
one.
Yep, that was who was going to be my next bring up.
I think that these like YouTube search has become irreparably fucked up. Because I looked up Mike Diva. First thing that shows up, Mike Diva, then 3 Mike Diva videos, and then a Germa video, and then a whole bunch more Mike Diva videos. I'm like, there's no way that there is no way that a Germa video should be the 4th thing that shows up, except for the fact that they knew that gives me a higher chance of clicking on it.
God, I
doubt there's any relation to Mike Diva going on.
I love Germa though, and I
love a good Jeremy moment.
I love the fact that his entire name and personality was just built on the fact that he was too uncreative to do anything other than Jeremy from Massachusetts, born in 87.
Gemma, 95.
Or 5, yeah, my bad. I don't know why.
No, I think he's very entertaining.
He's a fun guy.
I don't know if you guys have followed up on the Connor O'Malley discussion, but I
have not.
I stand by it.
I have not.
It's so worth watching. It will. I cackle every time. Birdfest 2020 is really good.
One of these days, I might actually get around to it, but probably not.
One of these days, it's gonna change your life.
It's probably here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna come over to hang out, and you are going to be like, "Oh, hey, what if we put on that fucking To Catch a Predator stuff again? Except it's gonna be, Connor O'Malley instead.
It's gonna be Connor O'Malley because it's great. It's amazing, even. One day you'll all see.
One day, but not today.
He's just a little bit too fucked up to like really break out there, but he's clearly like a on the fringes performer and also on the fringes YouTuber, where like he's got a pretty decent role in Joe Para Talks With You. He's got a few recurring bits in I Think You Should Leave. But he's just too fucking crazy to actually like put on a program like SNL. Because he's just his content is just insane, and his like character acting is just a little too extreme. The characters he wants to act as.
I do be loving weird character. I don't know. I love people that are willing to do like weird shit for their like as an art presentation. I just don't want to be that person.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really funny to me is the people who, I don't want to say ride the line of satire because that's not accurate. The people who, when you watch the video, you are watching it and there is not a speck of doubt in your mind that it is satire because it is clearly presented as such and the argument is made that is satirical. You fully get it. You're like, yeah, he's clearly dunking on these people, pretending to be like them. But it's hilarious because the people in the moment who were being recorded do not know that he is dunking on them. So to them, it is bad satire because it is not made clear, but to the audience later after production, it is very clear satire. And that's a really funny like balance to me.
Huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the all gas no brakes type situation where like we as the audience are clearly aware that this is a joke and think it's hilarious, but the people he's interviewing do not know that.
Yeah.
Good times.
And thus comedy is born.
I think that's probably a good point to wrap. I realize we are a bit over
thus comedy dies because the episode
to be fair, we
is
did have a
ending.
lot to cut.
But
we did have a
comedy,
lot to cut this episode.
Comedy dies.
Don't
when
say that.
I'm not talking. Say it again.
Yeah, you have so much you have to cut this episode, Noah.
I can't believe I have to cut that now too.
It'll be much funnier when you don't.
We're cutting on my line, not your follow up that made it less funny.
Wow.
Don't.
How you doing?
That's so fucked up.